One of the most iconic characters in Harry Potter is, of course, Hagrid. He is the first introduction Harry gets into the wizarding world, and he is there every step of the way as Harry grows up. But what if I told you that Hagrid had a secret? A secret that is weaponized against him by the Daily Prophet. A secret so dark and horrible that it makes him want to quit Hogwarts and leave everything behind. But a secret that never made its way into the movies. And no, I'm not talking about his fiasco in the Chamber of Secrets. If you're new to the channel, my name is Gibby and I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. So much so that I've dedicated years of my life to comparing the books to the film adaptations and finding every single difference between them. And I'm taking you along with me. This week we're talking about the Yule Ball in the Goblet of Fire, which is drastically different from book to movie. Hagrid isn't the only change because there are weeks of content that got removed before Harry's fourth Christmas at Hogwarts. So join me as I cover every revision, omission, and addition that the movie made to Chapter 23 of the Goblet of Fire. And by the end, I'll reveal this giant secret that Hagrid has been holding on to his entire life. Welcome to episode 52 of Movies vs. Manuscripts, Harry Potter Edition. Before we dive into things, I wanted to shout out this commenter from the last episode. If you want to be featured next, be sure to drop your thoughts down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video today, make sure to like and subscribe, as well as share with a Harry Potter loving friend. Per usual, I'll cover all the changes across the four major categories of characters, timeline, location, and plot. But first, let's recap what the movie shows, that way it's fresh in our mind for the analysis. Picking up with where we left off last week, we see the Yule Ball beginning as students stream into the entrance hall of Hogwarts. We see Harry and Ron upstairs in their dorms getting ready, and Ron is freaking out about his dress robes. Then, as they head downstairs, they meet up with the Patil sisters, who are their dates, and we see Hermione's big reveal. Harry and the other champions then head into the Great Hall where everyone is waiting for them to kick things off with the first dance. The movie shows people shocked as Hermione walks in with Crumb, and Harry awkwardly dances with Parvati Patil. The movie then transitions to the rock band performing as the students go crazy, and Ron and Harry are sitting at a table in the back with the Patil sisters looking bored. Eventually, a Durmstrang boy comes up and takes Parvati's hand to dance, and this leaves Padma and the boys looking miserable at the table. Hermione comes over after Victor goes to get some drinks, and her and Ron get into an argument over where her loyalties lie, although Ron is just obviously jealous. The movie then cuts to later in the night as Ron and Hermione are still arguing, and Harry walks inside to an angry Hermione who orders them both to bed. But Hermione stays on the stairs crying as the Yule Ball comes to an end. Then we see Harry sleeping and dreaming of Voldemort in the old Riddle house, which is the same dream that he had earlier in the year. And finally, the movie cuts to a different day as Hermione encourages Harry to work on the next task clue, and Cedric comes up to give him the oh-so-helpful hint of taking a bath with the egg. And that is where we're stopping for this week. I know that seems weird to continue into the scene on the covered bridge, but it'll make more sense once we get into the plot changes. But first, let's cover our first three categories of characters, timeline, and location. First up for characters, we only have a few differences. First, a small one is that technically a musical duo named the Weird Sisters perform at the Yule Ball, not this random rock band. And in the wizarding world, the Weird Sisters are pretty popular. That's something that seems to always get overlooked in the movies because they just don't have time to go into it. But in the books, the wizarding world has its own social ladder of famous people, everything from authors like Lockhart to singers. As we see in the Deathly Hallows movie, they do have radio, and there are radio stations devoted to wizarding music all about magic. Anyway, besides the Weird Sisters, we're also missing Dobby, Ludo Bagman, and Percy Weasley. As for timeline, we really only have one tiny deviation, and that is the fact that the Yule Ball is technically on Christmas Day, not Christmas Eve. And finally, before our plot changes, we have location. Really, the only major difference here is that in the book, Harry and Ron take a walk outside, which is where they learn about Hagrid's secret. But in the movie, everything is inside. Now, before I go into the plot changes, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, Robo Steve, and the rest of my incredible members who help make these videos possible every month. Also, if you enjoy this series of me comparing the books to the movies, then you've probably thought at some point, I wish there was a book-accurate adaptation of the Harry Potter story. Well, I'm here to tell you that Audible has just released the next best thing, which is their full-cast, dramatized version of the Harry Potter books. This is the books read word for word, but with ambiance, music, sound effects, and over 200 different voice actors bringing each individual character to life in a unique way. The cast is star-studded with people like Bill Nighy, James McAvoy, Keira Knightley, and more. I was just listening to the first book today, and in Chapter 2, when Aunt Petunia wakes Harry up under the stairs for the first time, it literally sounds like you are in the cupboard and she's yelling at you. It's insane. So if you're wanting to relive the Harry Potter series in a whole new way, check out the link in the description to claim a 30-day free trial of Audible. This gets you 1 free credit for an audiobook, so I'd encourage you to use that on the new full-cast Sorcerer's Stone audiobook, and drop a comment below when you've listened to it letting me know your favorite part. But anyway, with that being said, let's dive into the plot changes. To start things off, we're getting back to the basics of J.K. Rowling's writing style as she fills us in on a few things that are happening during the weeks leading up to the Yule Ball. We learn about Fred and George's business booming in school, as ever since Neville got turned into a canary from one of their treats, kids have been buying them up like crazy. Although it got to the point where everyone in school was refusing food offered to them because it might turn them into a bird. But Fred and George confided in Harry that they were secretly working on another fun item. We also hear from Fleur Delacour, who complains about Hogwarts food, saying that it is too heavy and will make her not fit in her dress by the time the ball comes around. And speaking of the ball, Hermione still won't tell Ron who she's going with. Ron keeps bringing it up, hoping to catch her off guard, but time and time again she refuses to tell him. One time though, when Malfoy is nearby, he interjects and makes a comment about how no one would want to go with the mudblood. Hermione, who is used to these insults by now, simply says, "Hi, Professor Moody," causing Malfoy to whip around in fear. Hermione then calls Malfoy a twitchy little ferret, and they move on. It's right after this that Ron and Harry finally notice something about Hermione that they hadn't noticed before, and it's that her teeth look normal. Ron makes a comment about this, and Hermione gives a sly smile and explains that when she went to the hospital wing after being hit with Malfoy's stray curse, that Madame Pomfrey held up a mirror and shrunk her overgrown teeth down and told Hermione to tell her when to stop. So, since Madame Pomfrey didn't know any different, Hermione didn't tell her to stop until her teeth were normal-sized. She then explains that she's been begging her parents to let her fix her big buck teeth for ages, but since her parents are dentists, they didn't approve of using magic to shrink her teeth. Anyway, it's after this that we have our next big omission, and that is Sirius Black's reply to Harry's letter about the first task. In the movie, Sirius only talks to Harry a couple of times, but in the book, it's an ongoing conversation. Pigwidgeon, Ron's owl, delivers the letter and the trio read it. Sirius congratulates Harry on his victory in the first task and praises his idea to use his broom. But he reminds Harry that there are still more tasks to come, so keep an eye out. Next, the book fast-forwards a bit to Christmas morning as Harry is awoken by an unexpected guest, Dobby. If you remember, Harry reunited with Dobby in our last episode, and Harry gave Dobby permission to visit him every once in a while. So Dobby took it upon himself to wake Harry up on Christmas morning and give him a Christmas present. Harry and Ron also give Dobby some gifts, which are all clothing. Harry gives him some old socks, and so does Ron, but Ron also gives Dobby his yearly Christmas sweater knitted by Mrs. Weasley. Despite these being old stinky socks, Dobby is brought to tears as he is so happy about the generosity of these two young wizards. After Harry opens his gifts from Dobby, which ironically was a homemade pair of socks, Dobby leaves to go help the other house elves prepare the Christmas feast. Then we read about the rest of the day before the ball as the Weasleys and their friends go out to have a snowball fight, and Hermione heads back up to the dorms 3 hours early to prepare for the ball. Ron scoffs at this, shocked that she needs 3 hours to get ready, and at this point, he almost doesn't believe that she has a date at all. Eventually, after it got too dark to see the snowballs, the boys went back to their own dorms to put on their dress robes. And this brings us to our next change, which is a small one, and that is that Ron actually uses a severing charm to cut off the lacing on his own dress robes. In the movie, they obviously kept all of this on. Next, the setup of the ball is a bit different in the book. In the movie, we see Harry and Ron walk into the entrance hall and meet up with the Patil sisters. Then, after everyone else goes inside, the champions and their partners walk in to start the dancing. But in the book, they actually go into the Great Hall and eat dinner first, with the champions and their partners all eating at the head table where Dumbledore is sitting. And you know who else is sitting at this head table? Percy Weasley. Which is our next change, as the movie omitted Percy Weasley replacing Barty Crouch at this event. We learn that Barty isn't feeling well, which Percy says is due to being overworked, But don't fear, Percy is there to save the day. He tells Harry that he's been promoted and pretty much is doing everything for Barty Crouch right now at the Ministry, and it totally hasn't gone to his head. Anyway, the next change is the fact that the movie doesn't really include Victor and Hermione talking. It's only a short moment in the book, but Krum becomes quite a bit more talkative as he and Hermione eat. He tells her about Durmstrang and gets a little too close to revealing its location as Karkaroff cuts him off, and somewhat jokingly tells them to not reveal their secrets to Hermione. We can tell in the book that Karkaroff is not a fan of Krum inviting a Muggleborn to the ball. And this moment leads to a really funny comment and a bit of foreshadowing from Dumbledore. After Karkaroff says that it's the headmaster's duty to know and keep the secrets of their school, Dumbledore says that he would never assume to know all the secrets of Hogwarts. He then adds that just the other day, he really needed to pee, and suddenly a bathroom appeared in a hall where he had never seen it before. The room was filled with dozens of toilets of all different kinds, and since then, Dumbledore has yet to find the room again. This is obviously the room of requirement, but it's the first time that we're hearing about it in the book. Next up, Ron and Hermione's argument is much longer in the book. Obviously, the book can spend more time on dialogue when the movie can't, and I won't be diving into things word for word. But I will say that Ron accuses Hermione of fraternizing with the enemy, and more than that, he accuses her of helping Victor figure out the clue for the next task. In the movie, we just get a taste of this, and to be fair, I think the movie made the right decision as I don't think we wanted to watch them argue for 5 minutes straight. But moving on, our next change is the omission of Ludo Bagman, who is a book-only character, as the Goblet of Fire movie removed him entirely. But what does he do this week? Well, after getting stopped by the Weasley twins and then shaking them off, he heads over to where Harry is sitting, looking like he wants to discuss something with them. Unfortunately, he can't because Percy is there as well, and he uses this opportunity to chat up the important Ministry official. So we never learn what was on Ludo's mind. Another moment that was removed was Harry and Ron going outside and seeing Snape and Karkaroff talking. Snape is going from bush to bush, tossing out couples, taking points from their houses along the way. Snape obviously is taking his role of chaperone very seriously, and Karkaroff is just bothering him by talking about some sort of mark on his arm that is getting stronger and stronger. Snape tells Karkaroff to flee if he's scared, but he states that he will be staying at Hogwarts. Harry and Ron aren't sure what this means and eventually run into Snape, who wants to give them detention but finds no valid reason to do it. Now technically, there is a deleted scene of part of this moment in the Goblet of Fire Extended Edition. We see Karkaroff talking to Snape as he catches couples making out outside. However, they removed this scene and instead included the scene of Harry catching Snape and Karkaroff talking in the potions closet. This is when Harry sees the mark on Karkaroff's arm in the movie. It would have been a little redundant to use both scenes, so the movie chose the latter. But now, as Ron and Harry are walking outside, we come to our next omission, and the main change of this week, the removal of Hagrid's giant secret. And when I say giant secret, I mean that literally. You see, in the movies, we're never clearly told why Hagrid is so massive. Sure, we meet Grop later on and can put together some of the pieces, but it's still never directly mentioned. Well, in the books, it's the same up until this point. In fact, we learn later in these pages that Ron always assumed Hagrid got hit by a bad engorgement charm as a kid. But what is actually revealed in this chapter is that Hagrid is half giant. So how does this happen and why does it matter? Well, as for the how, we read that Harry and Ron were walking along when they overheard the husky voice of Hagrid talking to Madame Maxime. Harry and Ron quickly hid in a bush nearby and eavesdrop as Hagrid slowly revealed to Madame Maxime that his mother left when he was younger. In fact, this part of the conversation is similar to a scene we see earlier in the movie. But the key difference is that the whole time, Hagrid is trying to pry something out of Madame Maxime. He keeps saying things like, "I never thought I'd meet another one," and that the moment he saw her, he knew. Madame Maxime gets increasingly uncomfortable with each comment from Hagrid, and she finally asks him what he's saying. And that is when things fall apart, as he says that he knows she is a half-giant. She is greatly offended by this, shouting at him, "How dare you," and that she's big-boned, and other things like that. She then stomps off, leaving Hagrid alone outside. Obviously, Madame Maxime is a half-giant, but she doesn't want to admit it. Why? Well, that brings us to the second question, which Harry has as well. After sneaking off, Ron explains to Harry that giants are just vicious and bad. He has a hard time putting it into words, but we get the idea that if people knew Hagrid was a half-giant, they would treat him differently. Ron explains that giants are almost completely extinct because wizards wiped them out. It isn't until the next chapter that we see the full effect of this, as Rita Skeeter releases an article in the Daily Prophet outing Hagrid as a half-giant. And the impact is a lot bigger than you'd think, with Hagrid nearly quitting his job at Hogwarts. Personally, I understand that they had to cut certain subplots for time in the movies, but this detail about Hagrid is very important. In the next book, we learn that Hagrid and Madame Maxime actually go off and try to talk to the other giants after Voldemort's return. It's a whole giant plotline through the rest of the series that is all kickstarted by this moment. But I guess the movies just thought it was too big to fit into their timeline. Okay, I'll see myself out. Anyway, let me know what you think about this omission in the comments below. Before we wrap things up, there are just 2 more small changes. First, Harry doesn't have another dream about the Riddle House like they show here in the movie. And second, Cedric gives Harry the clue about the egg before they head to bed the night of the Yule Ball. It's then after Harry catches back up to Ron that he sees Hermione and him having a massive argument, which is similar to what we see in the closing of the Yule Ball scene in the movie. And that wraps up all of our changes for today's episode. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out the playlist linked in the description to catch up on any episodes you might not have seen yet. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode.